A native of Richmond Hill, John Cresswell has contributed to the growth of five-pin bowling locally, provincially, and nationally. John began in the Youth Bowling Council, introduced to bowling by his father Jim, who is here tonight. John began at ABC Bowl, which was owned by Frank and Pauline Price, and finished at Newkirk Bowl, which was actually built by Oscar Kinsler of Professional Bowling as a bowling center close to the head office, and it could be used as an equipment testing center. In the adult ranks, John enjoyed bowling, but could also see that the administrative side of the sport was more to his liking. In 1986, Owen Moreau was president of the local York Simcoe zone, and he asked John to join the board, and John was an eager volunteer. Following his experience in several roles, John was elected president in 1995, and in that same year, led the zone to top provincial honors. From the top left here, we see Marla Rogers, Rose Romeo, Corinne Macklem, Doreen Kite, Jim Glanfield, and Sid Morris. Seated from the left is Mike Kite, Heather, and then John, Loretta Wright, and Owen Moreau. Which leads us to John's wife, Heather. John joined the Master Bowlers Association in 1987, and one reason was to not only coach, but more importantly, he told me, was to spend more time with Heather, the lady in his life. And they were married in 1987. In the Masters, John represented ABC Bowl. And from the left in the back, that's John, of course. Then Bernice Helmick, Len Attridge, Ernie Wolfries, and Mike Kite. In the front are Heather, Doreen Kite, Betty McWhirter, Betty Wolfries, Gail Bartlett. John stayed with the Masters for 5 years, and with his coaching certification, coached 6 open teams, 4 men and 2 mixed teams. Here's a 1992 mixed team. The top left is the scorer, Don Chase, then Brian Stiver, Darrell Osborne, Joanne Banks, Frank DeLello, and Bobby Baggs. Seated are Michelle Swan, Coach John, and Mary Lou Parker. Here's a 1993 men's team. From the top left, Jeff Stevens, Mike Rancourt, scorer Rose Romeo, Darrell Osborne, and Sean Morris. Seated are Russ Hercomb, Coach John, and Tom Bryden. John was now fully committed to the York Simcoe zone, and in 2002, they were again recognized as Zone of the Year. At the top left is Matt Crane, then Heather, Margaret French, Sid Morris, and Andrew Crump. Seated are Jimmy Glanfield, Corinne Macklem, John, and Doreen and Mike Kite. 2002 was John's last year as zone president, and he turned the reins over to his wife, Heather. She was a delight as she promptly led the zone to a repeat win as Zone of the Year. Here's the top left is Merle Sibbert, then Gary Kehoe, our MC here tonight, of course, then Pete Macklem, Mike Kite, presenter Dave Post, and John. Seated are Kim Kehoe, Sid Morris, President Heather, Corinne Macklem, and Margaret French. In 1996, John was elected to the provincial board and saw a whole new opportunity to contribute in several provincial roles. From the average book to the Constitution to information technology, John was elected as Ontario President in 2011. This excellence in information technology began much earlier, as John took an electronics course and was employed by Misco Data. And in 1987, this company was purchased by the expanding Apple Computer Corporation. However, some 1996 layoffs led John and 4 partners to open TRG, standing for Technical Response Group, and housed in a store in Aurora. Today, John is the sole owner of the company. Through TRG, John has become one of bowling's biggest sponsors. As well, he enjoys the entertainment side of banquets, and especially the YBC. Here is an untrained group of ballerinas that included presidents and some parents and some YBC volunteers. From the left is Gary Ego, John, along with Alan Stepka, Gary Kehoe, Mike Kite, and Frank Romero. At convention, in a year at Cleveland's house, the AGM also leads to entertaining. And during the annual pool party, John leads a group of qualified so-called prisoners in a chain gang skit. Behind John are Jennifer Gay, then Owen Moreau, and Don Breathauer. Also at convention, here is John with a Kawartha Lakes and Ontario Durham pool party. From the left is Marilyn Ben Belwa, John and Heather, Jackie Hawkins and Mike Wilson, Judy and Dave Post, Nicole, Paul and Jennifer Gay, Diane Doucette and Paul Brown, and on the end, Ian McLean. John's presidential role is widespread. For several years, he has directed the inclusion of 5-pin bowling in the Ontario Winter Games. This group are in Collingwood, and from the left is Real Champagne, Al Hong, Harold Stoddard, and John. At Nationals, John is the team manager, and here is an Ontario group from 2013. John is at the extreme left with many familiar faces. The singles were Matt Innes and Sandy Horton, and the ladies and mixed teams came from Middlesex Elgin, and the men's team, of course, from Kawartha Lakes. But there is more. As president, you participate in your own golf tournament, even though you only golf once a year. You dress up for your 05 Board of Directors picture. From the left is Mickey McNeil, then Harold Stoddard, Mike Kite, Real Champagne, and Brenda Hamilton. Seated from the left are Mike Wilson, John, Dave Post, and Terry Farrell. You get your picture taken with your wife about 100 times. And you may have regretted the last one you'll see here. Uh-oh. Might have regretted that one, but that's Heather, who was the target. You're always speaking at some event. Always something to say. And you're making a presentation. This one to Ev Wood, 40 years as a volunteer. But you're surrounded by lots of help. Here's the clan, for example, a group of hardworking ladies. From the left is Brenda Hamilton, Linda Vandenberg, John's wife Heather, Kim Kehoe, and Terry Farrell. John has been recognized for his efforts. Here he receives a Corporate Sports Citation Award from the Government of Ontario. And the presenter is Dave Johnson, who was the chair of the Sport Alliance of Ontario building. In 2014, he was inducted as a builder to the York Simcoe Hall of Fame, and here receives his award from, of course, Gary Kehoe. But with all of us, family is most important. Here is John and Heather at the wedding of their daughter, Cheryl, in 2014. From the left is the youngest son, J.M., then Shane Fortier, a guest of Sister Margot, groom Louis Mirabella, and Cheryl, then Heather, John, John's dad, Jim, and of course, a son, A.J. We now ask you to watch your screens for a special congrats for Grumpy John from grandchildren Mateo and John Luca.
Graduation, Grumpy Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Grumpy on the Hall of Fame.
Mateo and John Luca, well done, boys. And Grumpy just about does it right, doesn't it? But as we recognize John here tonight, he's been a powerful force for our sport and always supported by his rock, his wife, Heather. Ladies and gentlemen, our Hall of Fame builder, John Cresswell. Good stuff. Gail Maddox, holy crap.
Are you going to add my daughter-in-law to it?
No, it's too late now, darling. How did you want me to do that? Where do you want that?
I just might have a son, Jason.
Well, you got that here.